Playground Wedding, A Marriage That Lasts, by Chaos's Order. Penny Parker and Harley Keener were inseparable best friends in elementary school, up until Harley's dad walked out and the Keeners moved to Rose Hill. They were so close that they even had their fake wedding on the playground at lunchtime one day. And then they reunite at Midtown at the start of sophomore year, only to find quickly that they definitely fake married the right person. The start of sophomore year at Midtown felt exciting to Penny Parker. It wasn't like there were any new dramatic changes. She wasn't preparing for college applications or taking on any especially remarkable new classes. She wasn't joining any new clubs, and she wasn't shaking things up in her Spider-Woman time. She turned down the invitation to join the Avengers, and that was for a reason. Not only did she want to keep focusing on looking out for the little guy, she wanted to embrace her teenage years. Now that she was a sophomore student, Penny felt like an actual high schooler and an actual teenager. It was thrilling, even though not much was actually changing. She'd keep hanging out with Ned and MJ, being a part of the Acadecca team, and mucking around with ideas in the labs as Tony Stark's personal intern. But Penny was turning 16 soon, and she could actually look back on the past few years and see how she'd grown. Penny was excited to keep growing and learning and living her life. She was excited to walk through the school's front entrance and see what this year would throw at her. And she had a good feeling about today. Maybe it was because Flash wasn't in any of her classes this term, a fact Ned had shared with her after hacking the school's database for fun. Maybe it was because May, after years of mourning, had finally gone on a date last night and come back with a big smile on her face. Maybe it was just because she was a nerd who liked school. Penny filtered her way through the crowd of students making their way into the school. She got up the stairs to the floor where her locker awaited her and mostly tuned out the many conversations about summer holidays and dreaded lessons and club meets and inane gossip. Someone somewhere mentioned something about a new student with a southern accent. A new sophomore, apparently. Maybe Penny would meet them? Maybe not. Just one more corner to turn before Penny would arrive at her locker and sort through her bag and books to find what she needed for the first couple classes. A few steps more, squeezing past a couple of big burly jocks who were making out for some kind of joke or dare. Just as Penny was putting her bag in her locker, she heard a new voice come closer, around the corner in the same stretch of corridor her locker was in. A voice with a distinctly southern accent. Out of sheer curiosity, Penny turned to get a look at the new student. The first person she saw was Cindy Moon, one of her Acadecca teammates. Cindy was an interesting classmate. They were the run-of-the-mill nerdy STEM student, who MJ had once joked was similar enough to Penny that if they ever dated, it'd either go horribly or be the most insufferably successful relationship ever. Well, Penny wasn't really interested in Cindy that way, but it was amusing that MJ thought they were so similar. Especially because ever since Penny had been bitten by that spider at Oscorp, there had been this weird buzzy feeling in her head whenever she and Cindy got too close. Like her spider sense was playing out, but in a ever so slightly different way. Cindy had missed a few days of school after the trip, too. Penny had her well-founded suspicions about what that meant, but didn't pry. Despite that particular unresolved elephant in the room, Cindy wasn't the interesting one to see now walking down the corridor. No, it was the girl with the southern accent walking next to them. A girl with wavy, dirty blonde hair that hung over her shoulders. A girl with freckles dusting her cheeks, with blue eyes that had the slightest tinges of green here and there. A girl wearing a tank top and jean shorts with obvious muscle on display, and a red flannel tied around her waist. A girl whose face Penny would recognize anywhere, despite all the years it had been. Even with that accent, even with the changes from age, her voice was still recognizable. Her smile, her laugh, everything. And just to be sure, Penny looked down and spotted the proof. An oval-shaped brown birthmark on the side of the girl's right leg, just below the knee. "Harley?" Penny called out, her bag falling from her fingers and landing in her locker with a thunk. The girl turned, her eyes locking on Penny and then widening quickly. "Penny? Is that you?" And then there were laughing and running. Harley practically sprinted at Penny and launched at her, throwing arms around Penny's shoulders and pulling her in tight. Penny felt her cheeks heat because she hadn't seen Harley Keener in about 8 years and she had gotten hot. A memory flashed through Penny's mind of a lunchtime at elementary school when the two girls had been discouraged from something by the teachers, only to go and do it anyways. A childish thing that didn't matter, but also did. "What are you doing here, Harley? You sound so southern now," Penny could only ask, her arm snaking around underneath Harley's and returning the embrace. Harley pulled back to get another look at Penny's face and laughed with all the joy in the world. "Some stuff happened, and Abby and I ended up moving in with our new dad here in the big city, and I go here now." Penny felt like she could stare at Harley's face forever, because this was Harley Keener, her childhood best friend who had moved away 8 years ago when her dad up and walked out and her mom couldn't afford the New York rent anymore. From what Penny could remember, the Keeners had gone to live with Macy's parents somewhere in Tennessee. Penny and Harley had fallen out of touch, and Penny had been heartbroken. "Wow," Penny breathed. "Just, wow, is this real?" Harley nodded, grinning. "It is, and damn if I ain't happy about it. So happy I could kiss you." Penny blushed a deep, deep red. Something washed over like a haze of comfort and boldness and perhaps a little foolishness. "Then do it." Harley looked at her for a moment, her cheeks filling with pink. "Okay," she said and leaned in. Just like that, their lips connected and moved against each other. Penny wasn't actually expecting that to happen, but in the moment she definitely couldn't complain. The kiss was soft and wet and needy. When Penny started to pull back after a few seconds, Harley chased after her before their lips pulled away with a soft smack. "Damn," Harley breathed. "My wife's a good kisser, huh?" Penny really couldn't help but get caught up in all the feelings that came about with how evident it was that Harley wasn't even remotely upset about what happened, and that Harley remembered that one Thursday lunchtime. "You remembered?" Harley snorted and pressed her forehead against Penny's. It felt like they had never been separated from one another, never fallen out of step. "Course I do, Pens. A very official wedding day in the finest elementary school venue the great city of New York had to offer." Penny made a pleased humming noise. This was really happening, wasn't it? "Yeah, because the teachers said that two girls couldn't get married and you wanted to prove them wrong. You decided we should do it then and there." "I sure didn't I?" Harley smiled. Their arms were still wrapped around each other, heads pressed together. People were probably staring, but Penny found that she didn't care. "I still remember you saying that we grow up and fall in love and get married, but I didn't want to wait. Who'd have thunk I'd turn out gay, huh? That should turn out so hot." Actually, nah, that's hardly surprising. Penny could vaguely hear Ned and MJ's voices nearby. She knew she should probably turn and listen to what they were saying, but somehow she just couldn't bring herself to tear her attention away from Harley Keener. Is all this because we used to be best friends and you're just excited to see me again, or... Harley laughed a little. It was a low laugh, one that tugged at something in Penny. "Do I still have to probably ask a pretty girl out if she's already my wife?" Penny laughed at that too. "Harles, it's been 8 years. People can change a lot in 8 years. How can you be so sure you want this... me?" Harley huffed and pulled back a little. "Well, fine then. Penny Parker, would you do me the honor of letting me take you out on a date?" "Yeah, I guess," Penny teased, finally having enough of her composure back to do so. "Wow, I still can't believe you're here." "Better get used to it, darling," Harley said cheerfully, and then pulled back a little more, enough to notice the people staring at both of them. A second later, Penny did the same and saw that, yes, she had vaguely picked up on the sounds of Ned and MJ's voices because they were right there. "Hi, guys," Penny tried a little awkwardly, almost shuddering when Harley turned and rested her head on Penny's shoulder, with a hand pressed against the small of her back. "Hi," MJ replied, amusement smeared across their face. "That just happened." "I am so confused," was all Ned could say, staring at Penny and Harley together. "You two clearly know each other." Before Penny got a chance to explain anything, Harley took over center stage, as she had often done back when they were younger. "Hey there, I'm Harley Keener, Penny's wife ever since we got married in Queens Elementary about 8 years ago." "Huh," MJ responded, giving Harley an appraising look. "I'm Michelle, but you can call me MJ." Ned whirled to face MJ. "She gets MJ privileges straight away? It took me and Penny ages to get that." Sucks to suck, MJ shrugged. So, Harley, what do you do for fun? I build tech shit, Harley answered. I'm something of a mechanic. Yeah, Penny was a goner. Turns out, she was right about that good feeling she had about the day. Before Penny knew it, a whole week had flown by. She and Harley had already been on 2 dates, the first to properly catch up and exchange stories about their lives and the years they'd been apart, and the second because Harley decided she wanted to take Penny on a picnic and ask if they could be girlfriends. Naturally, Penny said yes, because the childhood puppy love she once felt for Harley had rapidly evolved into a very real and full kind of love. It still blew Penny's mind that it was all mutual. Harley had told Penny about Rose Hill, the backwards, homophobic town she'd endured for 8 years. She told Penny about how she started tinkering with parts to fill the time for the first few years, until she met the most incredible mentor, who had inspired her to one day be a mechanical engineer on the same level as Tony Stark. That same mentor had adopted her and Abby when Macy had fallen into an alcoholic depression and couldn't be the mother the two girls needed anymore. Penny ached at that news, both because Macy had always been so kind to her as a kid and because clearly Harley was hurting. But Harley was doing okay now, after plenty of therapy, and promised not to hide it from Penny if she needed help. In return, Penny had told Harley about being alone for the rest of elementary school until she met Ned in middle school, and how they'd been best friends ever since. She brought up Uncle Ben's passing, the middle school chemistry competition that inspired Penny to dive into the subject as much as she could. She mentioned getting an internship at Stark Industries, but didn't yet say more. She wanted to tell Harley about being Spider-Woman, but wanted to talk to Mr. Stark about that first. The more they talked and hung out and sat together in class, the more obvious it became that their connection was intact as ever, if not more. On the second date, when Penny agreed to be Harley's girlfriend, Harley invited Penny to come meet her new dad. The date was on Sunday, and they agreed on Penny coming over after school on Monday. That left Penny lying in bed on Sunday night with far too much energy. The thrill of being with Harley had left her beyond restless, and she needed to put that energy somewhere. So, Penny put on her suit and went out on patrol. She stopped a couple of muggings, took a lost kid home, and helped some late-night construction workers carry some heavy beams around when their crane was acting up. Somewhere along the way, Penny got stabbed. It wasn't deep or dangerous, but she knew better than to go without proper treatment. So, she swung herself over to Stark Tower and landed on a little balcony entrance that Mr. Stark had designed to give her easy access to the med bay. Dr. Cho wasn't there, but Friday was equipped well enough to assess Penny's injury and ensure it wasn't in any way threatening or worrisome. Once Penny had stitched herself up, she figured she might as well drop by the labs when she was here, since she was already running a little low on web fluid and needed to make some more. At around midnight, it was hardly surprising to hear Mr. Stark's voice coming from a lab near her own. Mr. Stark worked late into the night often enough. What Penny didn't expect was the other voice. As if you get to tell me when I gotta go to sleep, Tony, the voice jabbed. I'm just excited about something and figured I need to work off the extra energy. Harley, you need to sleep. Tomorrow's a school day and Pepper will have my head if I don't make sure you work hard and get good grades, Mr. Stark insisted. Besides, you wouldn't want to be falling asleep on that friend of yours coming over tomorrow, would you? The voice, Harley's voice, sighed. I told you, Tony, she's my girlfriend, and I won't fall asleep on her. Penny was just trying to wrap her head around the fact that Harley's mentor turned dad was Mr. Stark, that they knew each other and he was the reason she was back in New York, that Harley was here in Stark Tower, up late working because she was just as excited as Penny was about tomorrow. Girlfriend? Harley, you've been here for a little over a week. Isn't that a bit fast? Mr. Stark questioned. That was the moment Penny chose to walk into the lab Harley and Mr. Stark was in, and pull off her mask. She'd been holding off on revealing this to Harley because she wanted Mr. Stark's opinion first, and for him to know who knew about her secret identity. But Harley, being Mr. Stark's kid, now changed things. It's not that fast, Mr. Stark. We got fake married 8 years ago. Harley gasped, and apparently not because Penny had just shown up without wearing Spider-Woman suit. Fake? How could you say such a thing? We even got a little plastic cup to step on, just for you. Mr. Stark's head snapped back and forth between the two girls. I'm sorry, what exactly is happening right now? I'm Harley's girlfriend, Mr. Stark, Penny explained, secretly immensely enjoying being so casual in the face of Mr. Stark's confusion. For the same reason, she continued to call him Mr. Stark instead of Tony. It annoyed him. Is that true, Harley? Mr. Stark asked his new daughter, but Harley's brain had apparently just caught up on the fact that Penny was here wearing Spider-Woman's suit. That ain't cosplay, is it, darling? Harley finally asked after an awkward moment of silence. Penny walked across the room and planted a small kiss on her girlfriend's lips. Nope. Surprise. Slowly, Harley set down the hammer she'd been holding and ran a hand across the shoulder of Penny's suit in amazement. Behind both of them, Mr. Stark unleashed a sound that was halfway between a groan and a scream. Tell me this isn't happening, he practically begged. Tell me you two didn't steal my opportunity to introduce you two to each other. I had a whole plan. Harley grinned. You're about 14 years too late for that, Tony. Didn't you know I grew up in Queens before moving south? Hey, babe, want to stay over tonight? Mr. Stark groaned a little more, but Penny tuned him out. One day she might look back and freak out about the fact that she tuned out Tony Stark, but for now, it was just funny. I'd have to check with my aunt. I told her I was going on patrol, and she's probably already wondering where I am. Harley squinted in a way Penny knew meant she was planning something. Does May know about me being your girlfriend yet? Penny shook her head. She, actually doesn't know that you're back. I thought I'd tell her later so we could have some time to ourselves before she crashed the party and dragged you over for dinner. A grin broke loose on Harley's face. Excellent. We can surprise her. You, Harles, are a menace, Penny teased and pulled out her phone to call her aunt, who picked up within a second. Hi, May. Penny, where are you? Did you get hurt? You should be home already. I'm okay, Penny reassured her. Promise. Actually, I have a girlfriend, and I'm at her place. Would it be okay if I stay over for the night? Since when do you have a girlfriend? I don't even know this girl. It's clearly very new, so maybe you shouldn't be staying over so soon. Please come home now, and maybe you can introduce me to her sometime soon? Penny glanced at Harley, who shook her head and gestured for Penny to keep going just a little bit more. Actually, May, you do know her. What do you mean I know her? Hi, May, Harley called cheerfully into Penny's phone, which was then promptly switched into speaker mode. I'm sorry, but who is this? Harley grinned. Harley Keener, ma'am. Then there was a sound of something clattering for a moment and May yelping in the distance. Penny could only describe Harley's resulting expression as satisfied. After a few seconds, May's voice came through again. Oh my goodness, Harley! You're back in New York? Yes, ma'am, Harley answered. An old friend, Menta, I guess, adopted me and Abby. You might know him. His name's Tony Stark. So, can Penny stay the night? May's sigh came through the line loud and clear. I suppose. Who am I to get in the way of a married couple, after all? Harley, you'll have to come over for dinner tomorrow night, won't you? I'd love to, ma'am, Harley replied. Anything else you need? Could you put Tony on for a moment? Penny and Harley both glanced over to where Tony had been standing before, only to see him staring at a wall with a very blank expression. I think he's a little preoccupied with an existential crisis, ma'am, Harley finally answered. Oh, too bad. Actually, I've just a thing for that. Harley, I'll send you back with some of my walnut date loaf. I know how much he loves it. Okay, bye, May. Penny quickly rushed out and hung up the phone before May could hear Mr. Stark's emotional state break loose in the form of a pained scream. So, how you feel about sharing a bed? Harley asked as the two girls left the lab and one distressed Tony Stark behind. Too soon? Penny leaned into Harley a little. I don't think so. You know I'm a cuddler. I know it and I love it, darling. And Penny was a cuddler, but so was Harley. Harley, who immediately placed herself as the big spoon once Penny had changed out of her hero suit and into some of Harley's clothes. Harley, who held Penny and made her feel so safe, even though they'd only been back in each other's lives for a week. Harley, who had seen Penny at Midtown a week ago and not even hesitated to make her feelings known. I'm so glad I found you again, darling, Harley whispered across the inch that separated their faces, while their limbs were tangled together in Harley's bed and they were basking in each other's presence. I missed you so much. I missed you too, Harles, Penny whispered back, fondness wrapping around her voice without her even needing to try. Before May tries to expose me at dinner, I might have had a full-blown crisis when I realized I was bi a few years ago and panicked that you were my one true love who'd already come and gone. That's... Harley started, then stopped. Even in the dark, Penny could see how red her face was, and she knew her own held the same colors too. When guys try to hit on me, I told them I already had a wife. Like, all the time. Now Abby can't expose me either. Penny let out a laugh so gentle it came out as just huffs of air. We really just knew, didn't we? Why else did you think I didn't want to wait, darling? Harley responded. And I'm never leaving you again.